Before Greece, before Rome, before any civilization you were taught about in school, there was a people who ruled the Mediterranean Sea with such mastery and elegance that even the ancient Greeks considered them legendary. Welcome to the story of the Minoans, history's first great sea empire. Around 3000 BC, on the island of Crete, something extraordinary began to take shape. A civilization unlike anything the ancient world had seen started to rise from the rocky shores of the Aegean Sea. We call them the Minoans, a name given by the archaeologist Arthur Evans in the early 1900s, inspired by the legendary King Minos of Greek mythology. But who were the Minoans really? They were traders, builders, artists, and sailors. At their peak, roughly between 2000 and 1500 BC, the Minoans controlled a vast network of trade routes stretching across the entire Mediterranean. Their ships carried copper, tin, pottery, and fine textiles from Crete to Egypt, to the Levant, to mainland Greece, and beyond. This was not just commerce. This was power. Whoever controlled the sea, controlled the ancient world, and for centuries, the Minoans controlled the sea. Their capital city, Knossos, was a marvel of the ancient world. Archaeologists uncovered a massive palace complex covering over 20,000 square meters, featuring hundreds of rooms, sophisticated drainage systems, multi-story architecture, and walls covered in breathtaking frescoes. These paintings showed dolphins leaping through blue water, young men and women somersaulting over charging bulls, and women dressed in elegant gowns that would not look out of place in a modern fashion show. The Minoans were not a primitive people. They were sophisticated, artistic, and remarkably advanced. And speaking of bulls, the Minoans had a deep spiritual connection to these powerful animals. The bull symbolized strength and divinity in their culture. The famous sport of bull leaping, where athletes would grab a charging bull by the horns and vault over its back, was likely both a religious ritual and a display of athletic bravery. Some historians believe this very tradition gave birth to the Greek myth of the Minotaur, the half-man half-bull creature said to live in the labyrinth beneath the palace of Knossos. The Minoans also developed one of the ancient world's earliest writing systems. They used two scripts, Linear A and an earlier script called Cretan hieroglyphics. Frustratingly, Linear A has never been fully deciphered. The Minoan language remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of ancient history. So what happened to them? Around 1600 BC, a catastrophic volcanic eruption on the nearby island of Thera, modern-day Santorini, sent tsunamis crashing into Crete and blanketed the island in ash. The destruction was massive. This single natural disaster may have crippled Minoan power for generations, weakening their trade networks, destroying their crops, and shaking their entire society to its foundation. And then came the Mycenaeans. These were the warlike Greeks from the mainland, a people very different from the peaceful, sea-trading Minoans. Around 1450 BC, the Mycenaeans moved into Crete, occupied Knossos, and absorbed much of Minoan culture into their own civilization. By 1100 BC, the Minoan civilization as an independent force had effectively ceased to exist. But here is what makes the Minoans truly remarkable. They did not simply disappear. They transformed the ancient world permanently. Their art, their religious symbols, their architectural ideas, and their maritime knowledge all flowed directly into Greek civilization. The myths, the culture, the very foundation of Western history carries Minoan fingerprints. When you hear stories of Atlantis, some historians believe Plato may have been inspired by the sudden and dramatic collapse of Minoan civilization. When you see ancient Greek art with its flowing figures and vibrant colors, you are seeing an echo of Minoan painting. When you think about democracy, philosophy, and Western civilization itself, the roots stretch back further than Athens, further than Sparta, all the way to a brilliant, seafaring people on a small island in the Aegean Sea. The Minoans were the first to prove that a civilization does not need massive armies and brutal conquest to achieve greatness. Sometimes, all you need is a ship, a vision, and the courage to sail toward the horizon.